future panic. So we're talking about moralism again, and I guess, I don't preview these tweets. I do preview the first one just to get an idea of how the night's going to start with the tweet video, but I don't really look at the rest of the tweets, and it does seem like we're talking a lot about moralism tonight, which I guess works out. So, because of the modern religion earlier in the video. So, future panic. Moralism can be cyclical. Many of today's youth will one day view societal changes as harmful. New generations, sans their old negative associations, will accuse them, now elderly, of hindering progress. Common sense evolving as the cycle continues indefinitely. Far out, man. Future panic, man. Future panic. Future panic, man. So, future panic. Moralism can be cyclical. So I think it feels like almost everything goes in cycles, but it's not everything. It's a lot of things do, though. It seems to be a key function of the universe, that almost everything is just this continuous rotation. So moralism, it's funny because, I like I said, I'm 34. I was born in 1984, which I'm starting to understand now. But, I remember when the left, ostensible left, the left, was a little less moralistic. And in fact, it was in America that the paradigm was that it was sort of the evangelical right that were the sort of busybody, moralistic, sort of religious, we're talking about modern religion a bit, but we're talking about traditional evangelicals that, they were the ones that were pointing out all of the moral panic. And they were the ones that were saying, think of the children, we need censorship, we need all these things. It was the right. It was the right, and the Christian right, and the evangelical folk, primarily. But as moralism, runs in cycles, it seems that after 15 years, and my friend Tyler and I were talking about this a couple months back, actually, that, what was common sense 15 years ago isn't common sense now. It's like things have shifted, not necessarily for the worst per se or the better, but they have shifted, and people's consciousness and awareness of certain things has shifted. And perspectives are just quite different, even with the same people. But in my case, I think I've changed. I think I've changed a bit. So many of today's youth will one day view societal changes as harmful. So yeah, eventually, my friend Brian has talked about this, how, people they shift a little more conservative as they age. And they start to, with conservatism, you start to just get used to the tradition, and you don't want too much change. You want stability, which is a very noble thing. But you do start to, view societal changes as harmful because you're less acquainted with them, and you've grown up with a different way. And sometimes, I can't speak for you, and I can't speak for anybody else, but we all have our confirmation bias and our cognitive dissonance and all these different, mechanisms in our brain that sort of, at a certain point, you really value the predictability. And I think a lot of older people will agree. So the new generations, though, I think I've noticed this more as I've aged, but I definitely noticed it when I was younger. The new generations without those old negative associations from the distant past before they were born, they will accuse the older generation, the now elderly, of hindering progress because they're being more conservative, and they're saying we don't want to rock the boat because we don't know how much time we have left. Things get more expensive as you age. The cost, I think a lot of the cost of healthcare is after the age of 85 and including end of life situations. So common sense evolves as the cycle continues. So every 15 or so years, I don't know what the exact cycle is, but there is a cycle, and it's kind of self-evident that the values of the masses change, and different people develop different negative and positive associations, and it just becomes a system where new people come into the system. Young people are born that never know about the limitations and the bigotries and the problems of the past that have been solved by the older generation. They only can look at history books, and for certain modern religions and certain agendas, you can use history books to, sort of persuade in a particular direction. You can frame things a certain way, and you can really condition and program younger minds. And so I do want to make sure that, everybody understands I'm not looking to do that. I'm trying not to be too much of a sophist with my tweets and my videos, but I do consider them kind of edutainment, infotainment. They're a little bit metaphysical sometimes, but a lot of times they hold to concrete reality, the subjective reality we know as human existence. So I try my best, and I try to stay, I'm trying to, appeal to everybody out there, because I want everybody to watch, and I want everybody to enjoy, and I do understand if my sense of humor isn't for everybody, but I know that because I have a pretty picky one at this point. You just get older and you get pickier.